Is it possible to have negative closed accounts completely and totally removed off your personal credit reports within 72 hours with this one simple hack? Well, the answer is yes, and in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what this hack is, how you can utilize this hack to quickly remove negative accounts permanently off your personal credit reports, never to return again, because they will permanently be removed forever. So we have a lot to cover in a very short period of time, so let's get into it. So let's talk about how we can get this negative stuff permanently removed from your credit reports in the next 72 hours or less. And I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible to see if we can keep this video under 15 minutes. Let's see if we can make a record. And so I've talked about the data breaches over and over again in different videos that I've done. And so I did talk about in detail exactly what breaches are mostly your concern, starting back from the major Equifax breach, which happened in 2017, leading up all the way through and everything in between to the most recent one with the Social Security Administration, which is a possible potential breach. I think we all know what really happened. You know, your information was exposed. And if you have a Social Security number in the United States of America, yes, your information has been floating around out there. And that happened in August of 2025. So literally everything in between is considered a data breach hack that can potentially or probably has affected you in some way. Now, I will warn you, the higher your FICO score is, the more tantalizing and appealing your FICO score will be for these hackers. So there is a way to protect yourself, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this video, because this is a little tiny bit complicated, not too complicated, but kind of. So I'm going to share that with you, because that is kind of the icing on the cake in what you must do to be able to make this work. So first and foremost, what you need to do is go to your local police department. You can sometimes do it online, or sometimes you could roll on in there at 11 o'clock at night when there's an old man, volunteer behind the counter who will basically take a report, and you state that there's been identity theft due to an identity theft breach. You don't have to specify any individuals, because you certainly don't know any individuals that are part of it. And you say that your accounts have been compromised and or accounts have been opened up in your name that you're not aware of. The second thing that you need to do is go to the FTC website to file an identity theft claim with identitytheft.gov. And what this does is it allows the federal system to be able to be notified that you have in fact filed a complaint for identity theft, whether it's through data breach hacks or whether or not somebody actually did overtake your accounts. Whatever the personal case may be, every one of you is going to have a different take on what happened. Okay. And then the third thing I recommend that you do is, I know this is useless because this particular Consumer Protection Bureau has mostly been stripped the vast majority of their employees due to this current administration, but you should do it anyway. So you want to go to consumerfinance.gov or .org, and I will have it down below for you. And what you want to do is also file a complaint with them as well. And then that way you have all these complaints that are filed on your behalf. So then that way you can utilize these actual official reports to send to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion by way of trackable mail, to be able to essentially have the stuff permanently chiseled and removed off your credit, literally forever. Okay. So once you get the official report from your local police department, which will happen through a detective, that will take place a couple days, 2-3 days after you file it with the desk person or online. Then once you have that official report, once you have your report from the FTC, and once you have your report from, you'll usually be able to get the report number from Consumer Finance. You'll be able to get that right away. And then you can devise a dispute letter with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You'll also want to furnish a copy of your driver's license or state ID card or current passport, and 2 utility bills showing your current address. Or if you don't have utility bills because somebody else pays the bills for you, then you need to have a bank statement, credit card statement, insurance statement, voter registration card, something that, cell phone bill, something that actually shows your current name and address at your local, residence as you are right now. Block out any of your account numbers at the top, just scratch them out with a Sharpie, but make sure that you have just page 1 of your statement. You don't need, 50 pages of your credit card statement to go with your disputes, just to show your name and address. So once you do this, then you'll be able to send this packet. So there'll be one that goes to Experian, one that goes to Equifax, one that goes to TransUnion. You can go to my websites, getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com, and you want to look for the identity theft letter. I have a lot of letters there, so you do have to look at all the buttons to look for the ID theft letter. And you want to send one to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You want to state exactly which accounts you believe have to do with identity theft. Here's your proof of identity theft. Here are your reports and so forth. And you know, your 3 reports. One is going to be from your local Yokel Police Department. One's going to be from the FTC. One's going to be from Consumer Finance. And you're going to basically include that with your letter, copy of your ID, 2 utility bills or equivalent. Send this trackable mail, and I would send it priority, because if you spend the extra money sending it priority, then they have a very short period of time by law to remove the negative accounts. Now, we want to focus on closed accounts, because I will warn you, people ask me this kind of boneheaded question all the time. They're like, can I do this with open accounts? Sure you can, but you're going to lose those open accounts. So if you're okay with having them suddenly close your credit card that you're depending on to, you know, pay whatever grocery bill or whatever you have, your gas and all that, they're going to close that account because you're claiming identity theft, which means they're saying that this basically isn't your account at all. So they're going to close that account if you're going to go after any open revolving account. So you're not going to do this with your mortgage. You're not going to do this with anything that's an open revolving account, but you can do this with any closed account, any charge off, anything like that, any collection agency account. And you basically wait. Now, because it is an identity theft claim, they do have 72 hours to be able to delete these off. I think maximum like 4 or 5 days, business days, to be able to delete this stuff off of your credit. And so a lot of times what the bureaus are getting inundated with these requests to have these identity theft claims, to have credit, you know, permanent credit marks removed, including hard inquiries. And by the way, if you want to do this with hard inquiries, you could also add the hard inquiries to that letter. Normally, I like to see hard inquiries go on a separate letter, a separate dispute letter, but because this letter is all about identity theft, then it's okay to include not only the closed negative accounts that you want to have removed, but also you can include the hard inquiries as well. And you say that there's not been any permissible purpose by these companies to pull my credit because of this identity theft situation. You know, I don't recognize any of these hard credit pulls. These need to be removed as well, because this is also under the umbrella of identity theft. Okay. Now, what ends up happening, though, is, again, we want to only focus on closed negative accounts. Somebody in the comments said, do I do this with positive accounts? Let's see. Put your thinking caps on, guys. Would you actually why would you want to get rid of a positive account, even if it's closed, open, whatever? Why would you want to file a dispute on a positive account that's actually positively impacting your FICO? I mean, come on. Sometimes I wonder about the dumbing down of America. I really do. Certain things you have to think through with common sense, okay? And I know you guys all have that ability, but every once in a while there's somebody that's just like, why would you want to dispute a positive closed account or open account? Beats me. I don't know, okay? The whole point of this is targeting closed negative accounts, okay? Remember, if you targeted open negative account, they will close that account for you. And if you're okay with that, then go ahead and dispute that too. All right. So now here's the part that you really need to understand. Before you send the priority envelope, trackable mail, to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion with all of the elements I included in, you know, my list, then what you want to do before you do that is freeze all your credit reports. You want to freeze Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You also want to freeze the other phantom reports. Okay. Now, if you have a hard time figuring that part out, I'll include some links to freeze those. Some of them require something called an opt-out instead of a freeze. So if they're giving you a hard time about freezing it, it just simply means their lingo is different and it's just called an opt-out instead of freezing. But what you need to do is freeze those. First, start with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Freeze up all of those credit reports. They should stay frozen unless you are actually applying for credit. Do not ever open those credit profiles again. They will stay frozen, okay? Not opening them up, not opening them after a year, not opening them a month later. They will always stay closed until you're applying for credit. Then you will temporarily lift the freeze, okay? And then you will shut it back down again with another freeze. Now, you don't have to worry about that with the phantom bureaus opening and closing all the credit. Simply do this. This is what I always do. So whenever I'm about to apply for a credit card, I just usually assume that they're going to pull from Experian and TransUnion. So I'll open up both of those credit profiles. I'll unfreeze them temporarily for about 2 or 3 days. And then there'll be a date to set to close them back up again. or I'll just go back on my app with Experian and I'll just close it back up again once the credit has gone through. And LifeLock always tells me when a credit inquiry has gone through the very moment it happens. And by the way, if you don't have a service like LifeLock that protects your identity, you should definitely get something like that, because the higher your FICO, the more valuable your profile becomes to hackers. Okay, so what you want to do is make sure that you have that frozen, you keep it frozen. That doesn't mean that you can't access your credit reports. That does not mean that current open revolving accounts can't report to your credit reports if it's frozen. That does not mean any of that. It just means new accounts cannot be open. You know, unscrupulous credit collection agencies can't just willy-nilly start pulling your credit report just because. It just basically blocks the people that you don't want to have access to your credit reports, which is of course not you and not your current open revolving accounts, but other people, other entities will not be able to access those credit reports. So if you're confused about the freezing process, then do it the simple way. Only focus on Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion and freezing those up. You can do it online, or you can send a letter to them. And by the way, what I would do is I would send the letter. So if you're about to send the dispute letters off, what I would do is send a letter to have them freeze the accounts maybe 1 or 2 days before you send the dispute letters off. However, I strongly urge you, this is the only time that you're really going to be doing anything online with the credit reporting bureaus, and that is to freeze your credit. So I recommend that you freeze your credit with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion online. You want to have an online account with each one of them, so then that way when you are applying for credit, it's much easier to simply go on your laptop and unfreeze your credit for a short period of time before you freeze it back up again after your credit application goes through. Now, mind you, please note that every single time you basically have your credit pulled, the only entities that I know that actually have to pull all three by law is a mortgage company. They have to pull Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. There are some other banks that usually have to pull all three, but most other banks, including car dealerships, including credit card companies, will pull 2 of the 3, and it's always Experian or TransUnion or both. Okay, so you don't really have to worry about Equifax so much because they're pretty much a useless credit bureau, if you ask me. Anyway, so make sure that you freeze at least the 3 credit reporting bureaus first before you go ahead and send those disputes off with your identity theft information and those reports I talked about earlier. And then you can focus on freezing the rest of the phantom bureaus, which I'm going to have a list down below this video in the description box for you. So then that way you can actually go to the links to go ahead and freeze those up. Some of them will require a phone call, and some of them, again, will not call it a freeze. They'll call it an opt-out, where you can actually request to opt out and not have a report with them at all. The most important of these phantom bureaus, in my opinion, is LexisNexis. But LexisNexis actually gets all of its information from the 3 credit reporting bureaus as far as the credit side goes, and then they collect other information against you from court records and so forth. And so from the credit standpoint, LexisNexis is pretty much frozen when you freeze Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, but you want to take that extra step and actually freeze LexisNexis as well. So again, if you can't really figure out the other phantom bureaus, the only one I really would want you to focus on is LexisNexis, and of course the 3 main credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So this will help you do what we call a rapid delete, where it'll rapidly delete all those negatives off of your personal credit reports. They will not come back on there because once they're removed for good. But I will warn you, this does not mean that creditors cannot come back and sue you. Everybody always says this. They're like, well, Monica, that means they could sue me. Well, first of all, welcome to the United States of America, our highly litigious society, number 1. Number 2, anybody can sue anybody for anything, for any reason whatsoever. And again, welcome to the United States of America. And number 3, if you keep the negative on your personal credit report, that does not give you a higher percentage that they're not going to sue you versus you taking it off and, you know, having a huge percentage that they're definitely going to sue you. That makes no logical sense. And then that's not really how it works. They don't just say, well, I'm okay not getting my $10,000 from so-and-so. But, you know, the very moment he has this removed off his personal credit, well, now all of a sudden I'm just going to rub my hands together and go file a summons and serve him. That's not how it works, okay? If they really want their $10,000, regardless of whether it's sitting on your credit report or not, they're going to go and file a lawsuit against you. And that's just the way it is. Now, if anybody ever does that, anybody files a lawsuit, I don't care if it's a credit or collection agency or any random person, even your neighbor, then go ahead and go to neverloseincourt.com. You can get a free jurisdictionary flowchart, And before you file your answer, you should always file what we call a flurry of motions to basically have the case dismissed, starting with a motion to dismiss for improper service if they didn't serve you properly as per your state law, because every state has requirements on how a served summons needs to be, how it needs to be served. So that's the first thing you target, and then the rest of it is like motion to dismiss for lack of standing, motion to dismiss for improper party, because a third party collection agency is not on the original contract with the original furnisher that you agreed to. And so if they're going to sue you, they're also going to have the original furnisher on the lawsuit as well to make it a legitimate lawsuit. Again, I didn't make up all these rules. I'm just trying to tell you how to navigate things so then that way you can better protect yourself moving forward and actually turn the tables and win in court every single time if you understand how the laws work and how they can work in your favor. So don't worry about being sued. They're either going to sue you or they're not going to sue you, but you keeping it on your credit report is not doing you any favors other than disallowing you from getting better job opportunities, better insurance premiums, better, obviously interest rates on credit, being able to purchase a home, rent an apartment. All these things, of lower FICO is negatively impacting you in your future. And so, yes, I know I always get the comments from somebody who says, well, just pay cash. Okay. Again, 1940s, long over with. Cash paying days, not doable in today's credit dependent society, because they do pull your credit, they pull your credit history, they pull your LexisNexis report, which is your consumer full disclosure profile if they want to see, everything about you, including your criminal history. And you can, nip a lot of this in the bud if you can understand what's on those reports. And by the way, if you haven't requested your LexisNexis report, you're going to have to do that at some point. You want your full disclosure consumer report to see what's actually on there, because you could dispute stuff on there as well. And so you should always be in full control over what people can see about you, because you are limiting your future. You're limiting your possibilities and opportunities if this crap is staying on your credit, and some of this crap isn't even yours to begin with, as in the identity theft that I just talked about in this video. So for those of you that are looking for the big secret reveal on exactly how to get all of this stuff removed off your credit within 72 hours, this is it. It's the identity theft reports. It's the, local yokel report with the police department, the FTC report, the consumer finance report, and then, of course, disputing all that, as well as making sure you've frozen all your credit profiles before you file your dispute. So it looks like you're actually doing everything you can once you've discovered that your credit was compromised. You're trying to do everything you can to help yourself, okay? That's what that means. So basically freezing everything up before you file that first round of disputes, even freezing it up by 1 day, makes a big difference. So then that way they know that you really have just discovered some kind of identity theft or something wrong on your credit reports and you're trying to do something about it. And so the freezing is really important in this process. And again, keep those suckers frozen unless you're going to be applying for credit in the future, and then temporarily unfreeze it and then freeze it back up again. And that's how you need to be and live moving forward, because your identity is everything in today's society. So if you want the very best opportunities with everything, you do need to make sure that your credit stays clean, stays protected, and consider a service like LifeLock. To whereas if anything is going wrong or anybody's trying to apply for anything under your name, you're immediately notified by way of email and phone, like instantly. It's an amazing service to have. So if you like this content, nice thumbs up, as well as subscribe. Drop some comments down below. That helps me out a lot. You can always get my free dispute letters, getdisputeletters.com, secretcreditletters.com. You can also get my free credit flowchart. You can get that at school.com/Monica Main, in addition to getting my Credit Millionaire book for free as a free download. So I will be pulling that pretty soon. If you want that Credit Millionaire book, you should download it immediately. It has a bunch of tricks on exactly how to increase your FICO score and access OPM or other people's money to ultimately use to build wealth for yourself. So again, school.com/Monica Main to get the free credit flow chart, which basically shows you the entire strategy on exactly how to fix your credit as quickly as possible, and also to get that Credit Millionaire book, as well as join an amazing community of over 12,000 of you now, of like-minded individuals that can help each other network, but also, most importantly, to be part of something really big, maybe something bigger than yourself. All right? And of course, you could always ask me questions too. A lot of people don't know, but you can actually DM me directly once you're accepted into that group. It is the only way I communicate with my students. So if you have a quick question, not a 10-paragraph question, a quick question, you can always drop it in the DM for me, and I'll be more than happy to answer any question I possibly have if I have information for you about that. All right, everybody, this is Monica May signing off, and I will see you in the next video.